We are here to discuss and explore a rather interesting and relevant topic. We are grateful for our panelists who we know God will be using as they, along with myself, seek to have this interesting discussion. They will be shedding light, and we trust that as the light is shedded, we will get out of darkness and we will seek to be on our path to heaven as we embrace what is called sexual purity. At this time, we are delighted to have persons in the form of Henrik Robinson, Lanicia Anthony, Monique Johnson, Serianne McIntosh, and Elder Somerville, who will be our co-hosts. Moral purity, you will agree with me, it's not a devious plan to eliminate enjoyment from Christians, though Satan's deceptive threatens such a loss. Instead, purity is God's infinitely wise wisdom for true happiness and long-lasting relationship. As Seventh-day Adventists, we believe that biblical standards of morality are universal and timeless. Sexual revolution, you will agree with me, is high on the agenda. We do believe, however, that God's biblical standards are still relevant for a time as this. As Seventh-day Adventists, we know that God's standard doesn't change because the Bible rightly says, God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So the question is, what is the topical issue for this afternoon's discussion? We will now hand over to Elder Somerville, who will share the topic with us.
Thank you so much, Sister Somerville. Good afternoon to each person and those that are watching. So, as was indicated earlier on by my wife, that we're living in an age of sexual explosion, an age when young people and older ones are all involved, it seemed, in this explosion. And unfortunately, sometimes it comes on home very, very close to us. Now, we're going to throw out to our panelists our first question. And that is it significant to maintain one's virginity in this age? Is it significant to maintain one's virginity in this age? And any one of the panelists can just jump right on in.
Okay, I will go first. I would like to say I definitely agree with the fact that we should still hold on to our virginity because it's the right thing for us to do. Not only just because the Bible tells us that we're supposed to do it, but also because as being an individual, God knows what's right for us and he knows what's best for us. And as a young person, like your body goes through different changes and stuff. Sometimes you go through peer pressures and everything from like your friends who you may feel like are doing stuff that you're not doing and you might feel left out. But you definitely have to be that difference. You know, as Seventh-day Adventists, we're in the world, but we should not be of the world. And we have to set that example. Even if you feel like you may be left out or you might be bullied for it, it's definitely very much important because at the end of the day, we have to always serve God and not man.
Wow, very valid points there. So in other words, as Christians, we are called to be the light of the world. So if it's sexually, we are called to be the light. If it's in a conversation, we are called to be the light. So we ought to be stand out. We ought to be different. We ought to be counted as God's children. All right. So you did a good job there. My dear Sister Johnson, could you say though what virginity is? What is virginity? Sister Johnson.
So virginity is having sexual purity or abstinence, therefore, from anything that is harmful to the body. So that is what I believe virginity to be. And remembering what the Merriam-Webster dictionary said, it is the unmarried life or celibacy, therefore. So that is virginity.
Okay, so it's actually abstinence from sexual activities, right? So then, what if somebody is involved in oral sex? Can that person still be considered to be a virgin?
No, I don't believe so, because any form of sex, no matter whether it's oral, anal, whatever form of sex, as long as it includes passion or feeling, a strong passion or strong feeling, then I do not believe that that individual is still a virgin after engaging in such actions.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wants to shed light on this? Any of other of the panelists?
I just would like to say that I agree with her. Even in the word, it says sex, oral sex, anal sex, vaginal sex. It's still some form of sex and it's some form of pleasure. And if you're doing something that's gonna bring some form of pleasure to somebody else or unto yourself, then you're pretty much not a virgin because you're not staying away from it. Because the definition of virginity is pureness, being untouched in any single way, having no form of, anything from anyone outside of yourself. So to me, it's pretty much still considered sex. So I agree with her.
Okay, definitely so. And my next question to us, though,
If I may add,
pardon me?
yes, Sister Somerville.
Yes.
If I may add, okay, yes. So I was making a reference to the fact that in the idea of virginity, once you are a virgin, then the way that you dress, the things that you do, the conversations that you have with others tells individuals that you are a virgin, and it also shows how important that is to you. I also want to mention too that we did not mention it before, but even the mayor, some people say that you have phone sex or having conversations that are outside of what you as a so-called virgin should be having is considered sex as well, because you are marring your mind is already marred, and you have passions and feelings that are stirred up.
Okay, very useful points there.
Sister Isabel, if I could just interject a little bit. So you're saying, Sister Johnson, that you can tell that somebody is a virgin just by how they dress or what they talk about. Is that what you're saying?
Not just the way you dress or the way you're not going to look at an individual and say, okay, the person is covered, so she's a virgin, right? But the way that the person interacts with you, the way that the person portrays his or herself, it speaks a lot. It actually helps you to know that, okay, that individual is walking in the path of Christ. That individual is pure. That individual is true. So it has a lot to do with your dress. It has a lot to do with your overall deportment, your overall character that is exhibiting.
Okay, rather interesting. Monique, probably Kenrick, have you got anything to add to that? Because I'm fascinated with Monique and that looking at and determining. I understand what she's talking about, but Kenrick, what do you think?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I understand the point that you was trying to bring across, where you say, you can look based on how it is they treat you, how it is they dress, but you have to remember that, someone can do all of that, but still within their heart not actually be sexually pure. So, you know, like you really have to pray for the intentions of the ones that are around you, the ones of those who you say, you know, in your mind, you're thinking that they are sexually pure, but what if it is that within their heart, they have deceitful thoughts, lustful thoughts? You know, I'm not saying that it's wrong to have those thoughts, but what if it is that they're actually partaking of those same acts that you think that they're not, but it's just that they've trained themselves to be able to hide it a little bit more easily than others.
Interesting, Kenrick. So you're saying they might be just fantasizing seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. All right. And I was thinking, Sister Somerville, as Monique was making mention, I was trying to zero in specifically on the virgin. The virgin. Is there anyone else who probably want to share a light on the virgin? Because is it that you can be a virgin without getting involved in sexual intercourse, or is it that you have to get involved with sexual intercourse and then you are not a virgin again? I'm trying to explore, understand the virginity aspect of it.
I wouldn't want to say that virginity is the absence of not having sex at all, because it is that, but also we can't forget that there are other people that may have been coming into the faith that may have not, you know, practiced sexual purity. So what are we saying? That they're not pure if it is that they have already done it? I think purity has more to do with the inside. If it is that they're coming to Christ and they're saying, God, I want to give my life over to you. I want to give my purity over to you, and waiting until marriage to actually go into sexual intercourse, then I think that they would be classified as someone who's a virgin as well. If it is that they've reached a point, they know that what they did was wrong at that time and are now waiting until marriage to actually go into that act again.
So let me play the devil's advocate. Would they still be virgin if you would have indulged before and say you come in the church after? Would they still be virgins? With the technical definition of, because we are trying to understand two things here. One, we are trying to understand virginity as against sexual purity and impurity. And just a little clarification in terms of the virginity, just to put this in, that the virginity, to be a virgin simply means that you have not indulged in sexual intercourse in terms of the penetration. So we can have both man and woman then, I think, being virgins. So we're talking about two things, the virgins as against those who might be sexually impure. If I'm coming across, I hope I'm coming across. Any thoughts on that? So I'm saying that the virgin is one who would have never had sexual intercourse. That doesn't mean that they wouldn't have been probably involved in other sexual activities. Kissing, petting. But that wouldn't detract from the fact that they are still virgins. The virgin is a person, and this is both the man and the woman now, who wouldn't have involved themselves in sexual intercourse. That means you go through with the actual penetration.
There was a question that you had asked earlier, Brother Somerville. You said you were referring to those persons who have indulged already, who's done it before. And then I think you were talking about maybe celibacy at that point. So are you saying, I didn't remember what your question was, I'm not sure. But what I wanted to say was, you do have persons who've already touched that side of the road and they've had a change and they say, you know what, hey, I don't want to maybe partake in this anymore. I know what not to do now. I know, you know what I'm saying? That's where celibacy comes in. So is that another form of virginity or being a pureness because you're still staying away and you're starting over? Would that count or no?
Okay, what do you think? I have an idea, but what do you think, panelists?
I'll let somebody else answer before I say that, since it was my question.
Yes. If you would have been indulged, if I paraphrase, if you would have been indulging before, and then after a while you stop, so for 5, 6, 10 years, you are celibate now, no more sex, would you still be a virgin? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, in a sense, yes, I am.
All right.
May I say something here? I don't think you would still be a virgin, because at the onset, you'd have had intercourse already, if I'm understanding you, but now you have stopped. You are now probably forgiven, your life has been changed, but the fact that you did it initially, I don't think you're now a virgin. However, your life would be one of purity, since you're now wearing the banner of Christ and all of that, if that's what you're saying.
All right, let's hear what awesome point, Sister Summer. Let's hear what Sarian, you have a thought on that, or Kendrick?
I was asking that question because I know friends and I have people who are in that situation. You know, they feel like because they've already done it, that it's too late. They're not going to maybe find a husband, etc. Or, you know, you have some persons who become celibate because they're trying to find their partner, and that's their way of purifying themselves again. It's called like re-virginizing, I think the word is. So it's like, are we saying that it's okay for, because again, as Brother Robinson said, us having this discussion, we don't want to scare people off and have them feel like, okay, hey, because I'm not a virgin anymore, I'm going to hell. You know what I mean? We want them to still know and feel like, okay, hey, I've made this mistake because I didn't know it then, but I'm knowing it now. I'm trying to do it the right way, and I want God to see my heart and know that I'm trying to do it better, you know? So that's kind of like why I brought it up, so that we can just touch on that subject to let people know this is not the final end of it, because it's already done, it's over with, it's finished. So I understood your point, Sister Summerbell, because that's literally what you said. But it's nice that you're able to re-purify yourself, because you pretty much have to go through that process again, have that relationship with God again, keep to yourself so that you can continue to say, hey, I'm remaining pure until I find my significant other.
Powerful point, Lanisa. So,
thank you very much. Okay, Elder, I'm sorry, you may go ahead.
Yes, so we could move on from that and touch right on where Lanisa left off there. Now, is it important then that in this day and age that one seeks to remain pure? Is it important in this day and age? Because we are finding out now that we really have a bombardment of sexual advertisements. They advertise sex with everything, and it's as if you are being left out. Why do you think it is important to remain sexually pure in these age then?
I think that it's important because if our bodies are the temple of the Lord, where the Lord dwells, I think that we don't have free reign to do whatever it is we want with our bodies. We have to do what is pleasing to God ultimately before we can do anything that's pleasing to us.
And I kind of already brought up that point when I first spoke, and I said we are in this world, but we should not be of the world. And that is one of the most important things that I've learned about being a Seventh-day Adventist since I was being raised. My mom always told me that. She always said you should always be the head and not the tail. So just because you see somebody else doing something doesn't mean you should also follow them, because she would say, if you know better, you do better. And I've never been a sort of follower. I've always been a leader in that sense because of my mom. And I don't go with the crowd. So if I know, I'm going to try my best to, you know, do it. and especially with nowadays, with other friends, everybody have their different conversations. You're gonna meet persons who are not Seventh-day Adventists like you. You're gonna meet persons from all different walks of life, from every single which way, but you don't let them influence you. If anything, you influence them. Let them know, hey, I don't do this because of this reason. And it'll put like a thought or like a seed in their mind and be like, you know what, hey, this girl is different. She's not like somebody else, etc. So we should always definitely stand firm in God's word and always let him guide and lead us.
Okay, thank you very much, Sister Anthony. No, this is a big one. There is a term that says, me not buy puss in a bag. I'm not gonna buy puss in bag. So some persons, they are actually saying that they would rather explore sexually, have sexual intercourse before getting married, because chances are when they get married, it might just be problematic for them in their sexual relationship. So they'd rather explore first, not buying pussy in any bag. How do you see this? Is it relevant?
Okay.
No, I'll let you go first.
Okay, so thank you. That term, puss in a bag, right? It has its advantages and it does have its disadvantages as well. I can relate because I was reading this article while researching, and this young lady, she has no experience at all with sexual activities, because once she speaks about it with her church families or her church members or a doctor, the doctor would usually tell her to leave it. It will all work out in the end, or leave it to God or something of that sort. That is what we all get as young people, leave it to God. Now this young lady, she was so naive. She went by the principle, and she grew up in a Christian home as well. She went by the principles. She did everything that was right, and she even made the vow to say that she will not kiss the man or have any sexual intercourse or anything related to that sort until they are married. So the first time she actually kissed this man is when they were at the altar, right? And now persons were puzzled, because persons are saying, how do you know that you will love this person? Do you feel anything when you get close to this person? How would you feel? But that didn't really bother her. But then after she was married and she was ready to have sex, it turns out that she had a medical problem. I can't remember its name right now, but there was no penetration, could not occur right there. Nothing at all could not happen. And it led her into depression and anxiety for many years, because imagine anticipating all of this, and then when you're married, this happens. Now, I believe that the church has a lot to do with it, because the church puts it as if we as young people, the term sex is just off. Like when it comes on to sex, we must just turn off the switch. And I believe that we should spend time and talk to our young people about this instead of battering them down, and especially the young ladies in the church, these bigger persons, let them go read books and, explore themselves a little bit more, instead of just going into the world and not having any experience, not having any sexual education as it relates to this. Even though you cannot do it physically, but I believe that you should at least have a thought of it mentally. Go do your research. And even though we also say that pornography, it is a no-no, and I do agree with that, because we have our limits. But let us say it is a case where we want to go, see what is happening, but then at the same time we are trying not to get ourselves there, or to get ourselves indulge in whatever is going on. So I believe that we should explore more, learn more, read a lot, do counseling, so you know about this, instead of physically doing. I don't think you can go wrong right there.
Wow, rather interesting points there. Does anybody have any other light to shed on that?
Yes, Sister Somerville.
Okay.
So Macintosh. when you say explore, what do you mean? When you say explore, what do you mean? I am a
When I
bit
say
puzzled right there.
explore, when I say
Actually,
explore,
before you answer the, go ahead, go ahead.
when I said explore, I don't mean like physically explore. I mean like know about these things. And I'll use the example of the lady. She didn't know anything at all. I believe that we should go, learn about these things. So when we probably meet it, we won't be surprised. We're not going to leave ourselves in any depression or anxiety because what we were preparing for this. So that is what I mean by explore, not physically, not physically.
All right. So for me, I believe in the puss in bag theory. I I believe that you should have a puss in bag, because if it is that you put that relationship to God, and if it is that you pray without ceasing in choosing that individual, then that is going to be the best puss in bag. So I personally believe in puss in bag. It is such a joy to be in a relationship, or a relationship, you're married and you are exploring new areas with the person that you are married to. You have no experience, you're learning together, you are I don't know, mentally it is just a great experience. And I believe that young people should treasure their virginity in such a way that they seek to ensure that this is something that they lose once they are engaged in sexual intercourse with their spouse. I will give you an example. And the reason I say I believe in pussy bag is because I've seen many relationships in which individuals complain because one or both of them may be experienced, and then they come in with a different understanding or mindset or mentality of what they want. And when that individual is unable to live up to that, then the person becomes agitated, and that is how you have infidelities in marriages. So I strongly believe in the pussy bag mentality, right? I will also mention I had a friend who was, we were talking, and he in front of his wife, he was like, I think he was talking about an ex-girlfriend, and he was like, she was really good. She was really good. So right there and then you can understand then that the person is already dissatisfied with what he's experiencing. And also that because of his experience, the previous experience, it is actually marring the experience that he is now having, which is a lifetime experience and should be an experience that is geared on growth and development with your spouse, because you had gotten a puss in bag. So I strongly believe in the.
Okay, can I just clarify that puss in bag situation, because it's a colloquial Jamaican term, meaning that a man is not going to marry to a woman before or unless he has sexual intercourse with her. In other words, he wants to make sure that she is able to satisfy him as a man. Interestingly, it could be termed and spinned the other way, that there are some women who feel that they want to make sure that the man is able to perform sexually before they get involved, before they get married to the person. So the puss in bag situation is that you are not going to take the person, you are not going to marry to the person before you have sexual intercourse with the person. That is what the puss in bag really is.
Okay, thank you so very much. Just
Yeah.
to add to, hello, Sister Johnson.
Sister Summerbell, could I say something?
Yes, you may go ahead.
Yes. On your story, Macintosh, what I would advise, as when you're going through even marriage counseling, you are encouraged to do the necessary checks, right? So you go to, that female should have gone to a gynecologist and, you know, had herself examined to ensure that everything is in order. And if you find out that you're going to be having challenges, then you discuss that with your spouse to be, or your husband, or, well, in this case, a husband, your husband to be, and then he can decide whether or not he wants to continue the relationship, you know, into marriage. So that's something that could have been done.
I
But
do agree with that.
on the same context, you know, to keep that puss in the bag, that's something that could be done. And as I will confirm that any puss in bag, once it is given by God, is a good puss in bag. So you have nothing to worry about, nothing.
Okay.
Though the suggestion that you made about the medical checks, I was going to make that point. But if the person goes to do the medical check and there is an issue, separation probably will come. So my question is, where is the faithfulness? What do we love? Is it the thing that the person has, or is it the person?
I was actually going to ask that question because I was going to say, what if you love somebody who can't, let's say, have children? Or what if you love somebody who, if you have sex with them, you're going to be in pain? It should not be a physical attraction before it is an actual love attraction, you know? And I think that's where the term lust comes in before love. Because a lot of times, you know, we say we love somebody, but what is the definition of love? Love also means compromisation sometimes. Maybe you may love somebody and you're about to get married to them, but they cannot give you something 100% that you want. Does that mean you're still not going to be with them? So I get the checkup, but then I'm also kind of like, because I don't want somebody to fall out of love with me because let's say I cannot have children for them. Because then if that's the case, I guess 100% you honestly wouldn't love me, or you only really love in what I can give to you, if that's making sense in a way. That's how I would feel.
Okay, Sister Anthony, just hold the point there, guys. We're going to take a quick break and be back, all right?
Want to know all that matters? A family life web series hosted by Coconut Grove SDA Church on the YouTube channel, second and fourth Sunday, 7 p.m. Join us for all that matters.
We're back! Coconut Grove SDA Food Distribution every first and third Sunday on the church property, located at 3602 Furrow Avenue. What's better than a healthy and hearty cooked meal on a Sunday afternoon? Come by, grab a plate, and enjoy food that's cooked with love. We begin at 1 p.m. sharp, and everyone is invited. We hope to see you there.
Okay, guys, brothers and sisters, and our listeners via YouTube, etc. Welcome back to this rather interesting discussion. And our young people, we have seen that we have a bright future with them. They are very smart, they are very talented, they think out of the box, they are critical thinkers, if you will agree with me. Earlier on, I think it was Sister McIntosh who made mention of the church and the church's role in helping young people as well as older people to maintain sexual purity, to maintain their virginity. My question to you, the panelists, what do you think the church can do to help younger people as well as older people to ensure that they're managing the whole sexual feeling? Considering, you know, that sexual feeling, it is innate, it is something that we are born with, as it were, or it develops after a time. We have no control to an extent over how we feel at given time. But how can the church help us, help people on a whole to deal with the whole sexual issues? I'm throwing it out.
Right, Sister Somerville, I would suggest that our churches have seminars in which they focus on the topic of sex, sexual intercourse, sexual purity, and its importance. One thing I noticed is that churches tend to shy away from this topic, because coming to think of it, I grew up in the church and I do not recall ever having a discussion in church on sex or sexual purity and its importance. I've never recalled that. So I believe that this is something that needs to be instigated or initiated in our churches, where they focus on this so that they can teach the young people how important it is to practice self-restraint. Because if you practice self-restraint, then you can truly say that, okay, I am a child of God, I'm a Christian. Because we can think of the example of Jesus on when he was tempted by the devil, and even though he was very hungry, he did not yield to temptation. We can look at even Joseph, who encountered a sexual experience, but because he knew his values, he said, how can I do such a thing and sin against my God? So that would mean then that he was taught the values of maintaining self-purity, sexual purity. So this is something that needs to be a nail that needs to be hammered in our churches so that our youth can understand the importance.
And just to add to that, Sister Monique, it also not even to go as far as the seminars. I think it starts individually, like in the church. Like you will have persons in the church that you can talk to, or you talk about these things to. But then at the end of the day, what you're doing, you're belittling that little girl. You're not giving her comfort in whatever you're saying. And then imagine, as a young person, peer pressure is real, because I'm still going to school, and my friends, I tell you, they will talk about everything in front of you, and I'm there, and I know, but I don't do it. And they're talking, and I'm like, I'm just there, just listening to what they're saying. And then you're in yourself, what should I do? I feel left out. I want to do this. But then at the end of the day, you know that you're not supposed to do this, because what? I am a Christian. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. No, you feel good. You want to know. So you probably go to somebody in the church that you trust, a lady preferably. You go to somebody in the church that you trust, and then at the end of the day, when you go to that person goes all about and go tell other persons other things about you. And I think that is something as well where we need to trust our church family. We need to come together and have this family bonding, so that anything that we tell our young people, it can stay with you. And don't belittle them. Let them understand. Talk to them and stop running away from it, because that same mistake that you want them to run away from, trust me, at the end of the day, that's the same one they're going to go into.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that's a powerful point, Sister Syrian, that the church definitely should get far more involved. And as Sister Johnson says earlier on, that in her experience, the church really is not doing enough. Interestingly, she did make mention of situational ethics. And that's one of the things that a lot of people, even in the church, tend to want to side with. Joseph had the ideal situation, but he did not allow the situation to get the better of him. Let us see what the other panelists have to say on that point, Because here we are having Syrian saying she's bombarded by what she hears, what she sees. Go ahead.
Oh,
I agree.
Okay, go ahead.
Anita?
Oh, sorry. Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to say something on Sister McIntosh point with her friends. I don't want you to hate me for this, but I think you need to get some new friends. I think you need to get some new friends, because in order for you to maintain sexual purity, in order for you to maintain your virginity, then your friends need to be saying what you are saying, so that you are not pressured into anything. Not saying that you will be, but it's just an idea.
All right, well, let me just clarify that. My friends, you see, it was, let me tell you what it was specifically. It was a group discussion with my friends and their friends, and they were talking about it and everything. I wouldn't say that it's my friends, like my real friends per se, but you know, like the associates around you, the person you associate yourself with every day at school. Not that I want to sit with them and have a real relationship with them. You're just there because what you have to be there with them.
Lanisa was.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I definitely agree that the church does not have a role at all in talking about sex with us. But let's say you come to church and you're pregnant, they'll be the first person to bash down and hammer down on you. And that's one thing that I don't like at all. And I feel like school prepped me for sex before church did. Even in 8th grade, when I was in middle school, we have a sex ed class and they will talk to us. And I feel like they shouldn't be the ones that's doing that. The church should be the ones who are supposed to be doing it for us. So I kind of had to grow up and learn about sex from kind of like other persons and then from school as well. And it would be nice for us to implement like a rap session, like a safe space for youth, so that we can honestly just have a conversation and ask questions, because it's okay to ask questions, because there's so many questions and peer pressure is real, like Sister McIntosh says, especially when you're in high school. You're always going to feel like you're left out most of the time. And like I've said before, you're going to meet people from all parts of the world, from all different walks of the world. And I agree in a sense with what Sister Johnson said, but not really, because remember I said, sometimes you can be the influence of somebody else. They don't have to influence you. So even if they're having conversations about stuff that they do, smoking, drinking, etc., sex and stuff, you can be like, hey, I don't do that. This is why you shouldn't do that. You may change their mind, influence them versus them influencing you. But that's why you have to stay strong in what you believe in and make sure that you show them, hey, this is how strong-minded I am in something. And you might be influenced to them, because again, as Christians, we're supposed to be spreading that seed. We're supposed to let others know about Christ and to not just let them feel horrible about the stuff that they're doing, but to educate. And a lot of this is education. Because you don't know something, you just don't know it. But if you're educated on it, you can do better. And I just think education all around will help us solve this issue.
Yeah, powerful point there. Lance,
Yes.
education from both the home, education from both the school, education from your friends, your personal way in which you will educate yourself, you know, the study of God's words, which we will touch on a little later in terms of how that speaks to sexual virginity and sexual purity. I'm not sure if Kenrick want to jump in at this time.
Okay, so what I got from what everyone is saying is that the lack of education on the topic leads to the wrong exploration on the topic. So if it is that we're not talking to them first, then they're going to look to their friends, they're going to look to the internet, they're going to look to social media, everywhere else apart from the church to find out what sex is. Like my mom had to sit me down and talk to me and explain to me what sex was, and I understood that from a young age. She would also go through many different Bible scriptures with me, Bible texts with me that would talk about sexual purity, and some of them I had to learn myself, but she went through that topic with me, so she gave me a space to be able to talk to her, because even to this day I could talk to my mom about those topics, and she'd be able to, if not tell me, lead me to someone who can give me more of an insight or lead me to other texts as well. So I think that that lack of education leads to the wrongful exploration.
Okay, very useful points coming from the youngsters there. And I just want to touch on the point that my brother Kesrick just made mention of. I think the persons who make up the church, right? They're coming from families. And what is happening in most of the families is that persons are scared to have discussion about sex with families. So you find out now that these persons grow up the same way, and these are the persons who go to church, become adults, become elders, become leaders. But because of how they were socialized, they are still fearful to bring to the fore sexual conversation. So at an early age, as your mom did, I think more of us as family members need to expose our children to the whole sexual type of education, so that growing up, they'll be comfortable having discussion with these topics. That is my take on this. Over to you, Elder.
Yeah, powerful point there, Sister Somerville. Just to say that young people, it's also a fact that the topic of sex is hardly being preached sometimes from the pulpit. So as Serian says, you know, she'd want to hear it more coming from the church. There was a time that was known as the Puritan era when sex was literally tabooed. I was doing some reading sometime in the past that during the time of the Puritans, a woman who would be having sexual relation with her husband couldn't even laugh, because they saw sex as simply a means of procreation. So it was out of that era, the Puritan era, that this great taboo came on sex, where it is sometimes hardly being spoken of in the church. And as you rightly says, it would have left a lot of our young people in limbo, getting information about sex and sexual purity and the importance of maintaining virginity in you know, the ages, in limbo. So they have to seek the information from a whole lot of other places. But it's good that Ken did make mention of that relationship between himself and his mom, and the home environment that facilitates this. And Lancia was talking about the whole business of school, where she gets it. So the church definitely has to come on board. And for me, like, you know, myself, I'm one of the elders of the church. These are topics that I don't shy away from. Sister Somerville, I know, is very outspoken, and I know some other elders and so on, pastors who, but it probably need to be more prolific in terms of its pronouncement, so that young people can become aware, fully aware that, hey, this is a reality of our life. Feelings are going to be natural, but there's a way in which we can deal with those feelings when they come, and the benefits that are derived when we deal with these feelings in a very meaningful way.
So my next question is, how can we help young people now to deal with these sexual feelings? Not only young people, even elderly people. How can we help them to avoid committing sin, having sex out of marriage, considering that it is such a natural type of feeling? Did you hear the question, guys?
Probably our panelists might be just thinking.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sister Monique.
All right, so how can we help those who are not married to abstain from sexual impurity?
Yes.
Right. So I'm going to share Philippians 4, verse 8. It says, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are noble, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there is anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. So I believe that in order for an individual who is not married to maintain a sexual purity, that individual needs to have a close relationship with God. That's the first thing. So you need to know who God is. And in knowing who God is, then you will know whose you are. And in knowing whose you are, then you will know how valuable you are. And because you know that you are valuable, then nothing that will harm your body, because we know that sexual impurity can harm the body, not just physically, but mentally, because you're going to now have a mental struggle. You know, if it is that you engage in something that you never really wanted to do, but you just did it because, right? So the first thing is to ensure that you have a solid relationship with God, and not only a solid relationship with God, but for the young people, ensure that you have a solid relationship with your parents. As would have been mentioned earlier, the analogy that was given by Henry, I really, really love that analogy. because even in Child Guidance, page 114, we see where Ellen G. White speaks to the parents and talks to them and tells them, ensure that you are guarding your children from demoralizing habits. Ensure that you're not leaving them with anyone, because that is how they're exposed, other children. Sometimes children are left unattended and they're left to do whatever it is that they desire to do. So it is good for you to ensure that you have a solid relationship with God, and also a relationship with your parents in which you can share with them your struggles, and they are there to guide you, especially if they are Christian parents. And even if they're not Christian parents, find someone in the church who you can talk to about these struggles.
As you were mentioning, Monique, and to answer your question, Sister Somerville, the scripture, Psalm 119, verse 9 to 11, that came in my mind. And it says, "How can a young man keep his way pure? By guarding it according to your word. With my whole heart I seek you. Let me not wander from your commandments. I have stored up your word in my heart that I might not sin against you." I think that the more that it is that we, have this kind of open discussion with our young people to kind of, go through what it is that they actually, let's say, they're having peer pressure around them to do certain acts that they don't know isn't right, because we're not teaching them that it's not right. If it is that we don't give them an outlet to discuss what it is that they're thinking about, what it is that they're going through, then I think that, without that biblical instruction, they will falter when it comes to the test and the trial of actually not partaking in that act. So the more that they store the word within themselves, the more that they allow the word of God to transform their minds, because they're only transformed by the renewing of their minds. The more that they read the word, that is how their mind is transformed. That is how their heart is transformed. That is how they're able to know that certain things are not pleasing to God, and you're living your life to only please God.
I do agree with Brother Robinson and Sister Johnson as well. I don't believe that it is a tip thing where you say, oh, these are the steps that you need to follow in order for you not to do this. I believe that it does start within yourself. You need to have that relationship. Just repeating what they said, you do need to have that relationship with God, because when you find yourself in that position and you're not, I know that the Spirit is there telling you in your head that you're not supposed to do it, because it happens to me, because I know I'm not supposed to do it, because I try to build a relationship with God. Sometimes we might feel as if we can't do this, or the urges, they are true, but young people, I always tell my friends that it is in God that you put your trust, pray to Him and ask Him to help you. And I also want to touch on the point where Brother Robinson mentioned where his mom had a lot to do with it, because my mommy and my other family members, they also helped me in understanding and knowing what is right from what is not right. So I think that knowing God for yourself and having a personal relationship with Him is very important.
Awesome, guys. Valid points there. And if I may add to your discussion, I also believe that we have to purpose in our mind in terms of choices. I'm looking at technology now. Everybody has a phone. So therefore means that persons, including youngsters, can just go explore. Recently, I was told by a parent that when she checked her child, what was she looking at? Persons engaged in oral sex on her tablet. So young people, older people, we have to be decisive about how we use what we have. So we have the phones, we have the tablets. What are we going to explore? And parents too need to teach their children. They need to monitor them in terms of how they use those gadgets, because parents are not opening up to these children in terms of sex, but they are finding a way to get to know about it by using the internet and so on, so we have to be mindful of that.
It's a powerful point there too, Sister Somerville. And back to that phone, remember that we become sexually stimulated. So this is one thing that the young people definitely can consider. We become sexually stimulated by what we see, what we hear, sometimes what we taste, what we touch. So our senses facilitate sexual stimulation. So as young people, one of the safeguard, Kenrick mentioned the whole business of studying and I think money and the family. One of the safeguard is to make sure that our senses are not exposed unnecessarily to all of these sexual stimulation, because it is by the exposure to these sexual stimulation that we are going to eventually be led into it. Becomes far more easier than if you try to avoid these. Some of them we definitely can't avoid. I mean, you watch television, well, you can turn it off, but sex sells. It sells from car to bicycle to every single thing. They use ads and so on. So you see all these naked, skimpy people and so but it is, we can have control over some of them, some we can't. But as far as it's possible, we allow our senses not to be bombarded with all of these sexual stimulants. And that is one of the ways in which we can really seek to help young people to avoid sexual intercourse before and to maintain sexual purity. You're muted, Sister Son.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Elder. Now I have another one to throw at us. Look at this scenario. In the church, there is this youngster who is going to high school, living with a relative outside of mommy and daddy. Let's say those persons passed. They are struggling real hard to finance her education. She meets this guy who is able now to send her to school in terms of finances. What suggestion would you have to give to this youngster? There is nobody else to help her. The relatives with whom she's living, very poor. She needs an education. Church isn't giving her the support. She meets this guy who wants to help her financially. And in order to have that financial help, she has to lose her virginity, get involved sexually and so on. What would you say to this youngster?
First and foremost, I would definitely tell her to trust in God. That's the first thing that you would have to do, because first, God makes a way out of no way sometimes, and you don't see that. Anything that's going to hindrance you and turn you away from God, which will be sexual behavior or prostitution or whatever, because that's what it sounds like he's telling her. She would probably have to sleep with her to get money for school. I would definitely tell her that's not the way. Turn away from it, walk the opposite way, and just pray and have faith that she'll have scholarships come through. Somebody off the street might bless her. You never know. So that would be my advice for her. Just trusting God and let him work in your life, because he would not put you in a situation to do anything at all like that.
Amen. Amen. For me, I'm going to give a personal, I'm going to give a personal testimony, right? So when I was going to high school, I recall being in grade 10, and where I was living was about 30 minutes or so from school. So I had to take 2 taxis, right? I grew up with my father, and he at the time did not have any money. It was just a mess. And I recall going to school, and oftentimes I would be unable to attend school because there was just no money. And I said to myself, you know what, I need to think of ways in which I can actually get myself to school, because that's what I need to do. I need to get to school. There are persons who would have approached me. I even remember a gentleman in church approaching me and telling me what he would do for me if I did certain things, and I said no, and I even brought it to some of the older women in the church, and I guess they spoke to him, and he stopped coming. But what I did was I thought of a way in which I could actually increase the money that I was getting. So if it's even $100, I remember at the time that there's something called gummy bears. Well, we all know gummy bears and gummy worms. And it was something that I loved. And I went to a shop one day and I bought some gummy worms and gummy bear. And I said, oh, so they're selling it for $5. So if I buy $100 worth and I sell it for $10 for the same amount, then I'll be making 100% profit, and I'll be able to go to school. So that is what I did. I went to the administrators at the school because there's no vending policy. And I just spoke to them and they said, okay. So that's what I did. And what I would do is I'd go to school very early and I would ensure that I go to the different classes and I'd make my sales. And that is what helps me to travel to and from school. So if it is that you want to maintain that purity, and if it is, I would encourage her to find a way in which speak to somebody, invest on what you already have. There are so many ways that you can invest on the very little that you're getting, because that is what I did. I even recall being sent up for 9 subjects, but I did not have the money to pay for any. And my father told me the week that I don't have the money. What should I have done? Gone to somebody and had sexual intercourse with that individual just to get the money? No. What I did was I reached out to the nurse at school, and I told her, well, I don't have the money to pay for my subjects. And the next day I literally had a sponsor to pay for all of my subjects, and I was sitting 9 CXC subjects. So if it is that you trust in a God who you believe is going to take care of you, then that God is going to take care of you. You don't need to do anything outside of your power. Nothing that is going to put you in any form of remorse or guilt to get to where you need to go. God's got you covered. And that is something that I would tell that individual.
Okay, great. Awesome testimony there coming from Sister Johnson. Now we are told to give the wrap-up signals because time has been far spent. So what I'll be asking my panelists to do is to give a closing or a final statement. And I just want to say you have been awesome. The points have been raised and you have articulated very well. And we trust that we will all learn from this. And as we leave this platform, let us be willing to go and encourage young people out there. They are struggling with sexual decisions that are to be made. A lot of them are not maintaining their virginity because of one or more reasons. So as we go, let us remember that God is relying on us to make a difference with the lives that he has blessed us with. All right, so may I have your final statements?
Finally, I would just like to say, above all, always keep God first in every single thing that we do, because without him, we can't do nothing. Life is a challenge and you should never give up. You have to always push through and persevere. Try to seek help as much as you can. Talk to individuals who you feel comfortable with. You may not have a parent. Some of us don't have a parent to go to talk about sex. Some of us may not have any family members to go to talk about sex. But if you can find somebody within the church, or find an outside friend who is of maybe the same religion as you, or just somebody that can understand you and confide in you, who won't give you any sort of peer pressure, in any single way that you can. If you need somebody to talk to, I would say definitely find that comfort. But that's definitely after putting God first. And just remember, even if you do make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. A lot of times young people feel like, oh, I already lost I did this. Oh, it's okay. You can forgive yourself, because a lot of times we don't forgive ourselves as young people because we get bashed sometimes from older folks telling us, oh, well, you messed up, you screwed up, you did it wrong. Yes, you made that mistake, but it's not the end of your life. So continue to do better, push through, pray about it and ask God to guide you, and don't feel like you're ever on your own. Just continue to place your hands in his, and God will lead you, God will guide you. Remember that you are his child, he loves you, and he always wants the best for you. Anything outside of God is not of God. So as long as you keep your hands in his, he will continue to guide you. Thank you.
Okay, I thought Syrian was gonna say.
I am going to say
20
something.
seconds, 20 seconds, I think.
Okay, being a virgin, it is very important, guys. Something to be proud of. So saving your body for your long life partner and sharing the most intimate human interaction with that person is healthy for the man, and it is also healthy for your body. And anytime you feel as if you want to lead astray, just remember Proverbs 3. Just trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and to lean not onto thine own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct our path.
10 seconds, Kenrick.
Okay. I agree
Okay.
with Syrian with the text that she used, Proverbs 3, verse 5 to 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and don't lean onto what you think or what you understand, but in all your ways, in everything that you are going to do, acknowledge Christ first. Seek his word first. Seek his wisdom first to see if what it is you're doing aligns with his word, and ultimately will help you to become a better Christian.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay, and before Howard wraps up, I just want to say that we all should remember that with God, all things are possible.
Amen. Sister Somerville, and
Yeah.
for me, I would encourage you to read 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 1 to 8. It talks about the importance of purity. And I will see verse 3, it says, "For this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you should abstain from sexual immorality, that each of you should know how to possess his own vessel in sanctification and honor, not in passion of lust, like the Gentiles do, who do not know God." And it goes on to talk about the fact that if you know God, then you are going to ensure that you're guided by the Holy Spirit. So you'll be living in holiness. So I want to encourage a male, a female out there, maintain your purity, because it is important as a Christian and as a child of God.
Okay, thank you so much, young people. You have really explored a powerful topic. And just to say that the knowledge that you have is not only going to stay with you, because we know that you have friends, and the influence that you have on your friends can be tremendous. Sexual purity in this age, it is serious. It is very important that we keep talking about it. It's important that the church doesn't shy away from it. It's important that homes and schools continue to share with young people the whole business of making sure that they remain pure. And Lanisa had made mention of the fact that, yes, you might have done it, so you're not a virgin again, but that celibacy part, Lanisa, is very, very powerful. You can maintain a purity after that, and it is as if you are, are still a virgin. So thank you so much for sharing, Sister Somerville. You did an awesome job as host, and I was happy to share with you as my wife as co-host. God bless you all as we continue to just keep the straight and the narrow path, because guess what, young people? Soon and very soon, we are going to see the King who demands just purity. It will be all pure over there. God bless you. Take care of yourselves.